Hi, Mark. Hi,
Hi, good
welcome.
morning. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Great.
So, guys, welcome to all of you all. And today we have a very interesting conversation. We will be talking all about natural diamonds. And with us is a third generation diamond pair of the Klein family, Mark Klein, who is director of operations. And he's going to be talking to us about four C's and beyond of a natural diamond and also talk to us about his family legacy. So, a brief introduction to Julius Klein Diamond. The company was founded in the year 1948, and they have an extraordinary collection of natural diamonds, and they specialize in 2 carats and up. They also have a global presence in North America, South America, in Israel, in Africa, and in Asia. So, Mark, we welcome you once again, and we are extremely excited to learn all about natural diamonds from you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Definitely a good way. I talk about diamonds all week, but to talk about them on Friday going into the weekend is extra special for me, especially in the summer months.
Let's begin by knowing, how did you know the world of natural diamonds? Was it through calling?
Well, it's interesting because I grew up around the industry, around, I always like to say 47th Street is kind of my home away from home, or my wife tells me today, my first home. I spend pretty much half or sometimes more than half of my days here. Um, my family, my grandfather Julius started the company in 1948, and my father
Right.
now, and myself, already third generation in it for over a decade. And I don't know, I don't know necessarily if it was a calling. I mean, my family was obviously involved, but I think the first time when I was a kid, I used to come in and play with some of the stones and the tweezers and things like that. But I don't think it really hit me that it was a calling of mine until I started to see um, beyond what the regular, even everyday diamonds that we sell, which large, but I think kind of visiting auction houses, museums, and really seeing the diversity of all the types of stones, the types of diamonds, the history and the transition of diamonds over time is
Hmm.
what kind of really made me feel more passionate about it, to kind of see that transition of, I mean, things come and go all the time. There are many products and tangible items we have in the world today that aren't around anymore. We look, but if you, no matter what, a diamond is, I mean, the is has transcended time, and it's kind of transitioned with time and the changes, and it's kind of gone through. And when I put those two and two together of looking back generations of stones we've cut in the past and stones we're cutting now, and how
Wow.
that kind of what build my passion on a much higher level, to kind of
Wow.
see how timeless really diamonds really are.
Hmm. So we're excited to know more about your passion about natural diamonds. Why is the cutting procedure of natural diamond referred to as an art?
That is a good question. I'm happy that you're referring to it as an art, because there are a lot of people who wouldn't necessarily um,
Right.
refer to it right away as an art. I mean, most people, when you think of art, we think of paintings and sculptures, and those are the
Right.
most common items that we would define as art. But I think art is a combination of skill and vision, and it takes a true artisan to really do what we're doing, where we're
Hmm.
transforming what in essence is a rock. I mean, it's a really
Hmm.
hard rock, but of a gem quality diamonds that come out of the earth. I mean, most people, if you'd see them on the floor, would probably just kick them and shun them away. Diamonds don't naturally have that um, beauty and that sparkle. It's inside there. What really happens is an artisan forms and shapes
Hmm.
that rock into a gem quality diamond, and it really becomes a special stone. And I would venture to say that there's probably less artists in the world today that can do this skill
Wow.
than there are people who paint or sculpt
Wow.
or create music. I mean, you're really creating something beautiful with a finite resource that really is challenging and difficult to cut, challenging in its own ways to really add that value and that beauty in the item. And I think that's a very high level of art form.
Lovely. And you mentioned that the art has evolved over a period of time. So talk to us about how has the art evolved? And also, Mark, we are familiar that back in the ancient time, there was no electricity. So the only method of cutting diamond was through hand. and with very limited resources. And gradually, as there was electricity, so the cleaving procedure happened. So talk to us about the human aspect of cutting diamond versus the machinery.
Yeah, this is you're touching right on the point that I was mentioning before of that transition of time. Um, I mean, the tools that were used in the original diamond cuttings were very limited. I mean, cleaving a
Okay.
stone was really separating it and finding that weaker spot in the stone, and was almost done with a hammer and a chisel, or what would they call the cleave. That's where the term comes in, cleaving. And even forming that crystal, if you look at a lot of old stones, when I first learned about this, going into museums and seeing old stones, they were very deep and heavy, almost rounded,
Hmm.
like what we refer to today as cabochons or sugar loaves. They
Yes.
weren't really faceted, and they were able to just kind of slice off edges of the stone to create some
Hmm.
sort of mirroring effect of light, almost like a disco ball kind of. But that limiting in tools and technology um, really limited you to the brilliance and optimization you can get out of every single stone.
Right.
As more tools and technology developed over the years, the the process became much more advanced. We're able to hit much more accuracy polishing and cutting stones, and that enabled us to measure certain things, whether it's facets and things like that. I mean, the tools that were hundreds of years ago when these first stones, um, were really archaic, almost like caveman type tools. But I mean, even over the past 100 years, which is the most recent from when we started really being able to
Right.
round diamonds out and create. Old euros are around from the 1920s approximately. When we're able to really girdle and round out a stone, that is what really changed the aspect from just really soft polishing the outside of the stone to be able to really create minute, minuscule facets around and really optimize brilliance. Um, I mean, there's tools here. I have a few I took out because we had a discussion prior. Some of the old tools that are used. I mean, even today, the tools that I grew up surrounded with by cutters and polishers, probably 50% or more of the tools from then are not used anymore today. I mean, we have machines today that can measure entire three-dimensional
Yes.
aspects of the stones. We have almost MRI or X-ray type machines that could even scan inside of the stones.
Yes.
And that cleaving process, for not just the polishing process, the cleaving process itself, we're using high-powered lasers to cleave and separate or cut stones. And that's enabled us also to have better yield and more accuracy in making decisions when we're polishing the stone. I took out a few. I mean, just for example, quick.
Yes, please. Yes,
I
please.
mean, this is an old gauge, so I mean, it's just a piece of metal, two pieces of metal, right, slid
Wow.
together,
That's it.
and yeah, we would measure. Here, I took out a stone that we could show, but you'd basically be able to measure um, a stone like this,
Hmm.
and you get the exact millimeter, the length, the width of the stone, the depth, however you want to position it. This tool is a regular millimeter gauge. I wouldn't even know where I'd be able to find this in a store. It probably doesn't exist anymore. And today we have millimeter gauges like this, which are very similar,
Yes.
but because they're digital, I mean, we're able to do that same exact measuring, but to much more accuracy because
Right.
we'd be able to position the stone. And this is just the basic tool. Even this tool today, which
Yes.
has in the past 20 years has been developed digital, is, I mean, I use it because it's a quick reference, whether you're
Yes.
holding stones on my desk gauging quickly, but in the process of cutting, it's almost never used anymore. And we place the stones on machines. We have high-powered lenses. We're creating a 3D image of the stone. I mean, there are multiple types of gauges. I brought one here. This was an old gauge,
This one, no.
which actually has a old tune, like if you remember old clocks, and these
Hmm.
stone would be placed here, and this would actually tell you the roundness of a round diamond. It would give you how round it was, how much the millimeters of the surface of a round stone was out. I mean, we have all these types of really interesting, intricate tools that today are used very minimally. I mean, people who travel and you're looking for stones on the move or estate jewelry and things like that. And I mean, it's a quick reference, but today everything is really ran by machines so much. It's funny that there are tools on my desk that just keep on getting pushed aside further and further
Right.
that we're barely ever using. I mean, I find it really, I mean, a few years ago, we gave out these, it seems like a few years ago, to some of our clientele. These were given out, and it's just a lens. And actually, if you see
Okay.
the lens inside, there's a
Yes.
millimeter gauge,
Yes.
right? So
Wow.
we were able
Uh-huh.
to hold up a stone to the millimeter gauge, and you can reference
Wow.
here. I don't know if you could make it out. Let's see.
Yes. You just have to place. Wow. Wonderful, Mark.
Right? So we can measure the size of the table and things like that. But today I use this maybe as a quick reference, quickly. Otherwise, the stone is placed on a machine and
It's
measures
faster.
everything for me. So just that process itself. I mean, it's interesting to say. We're all kind of like, there's people who like listening to music still on old records because you get that
Yes.
feeling or that vibe. It's a little bit different, but I mean, this transition has what I feel is interesting and different in the diamond industry is that although the process has changed a lot,
Mm-hmm.
and referring back to what we said before, the art form of this, the product is the same. Meaning a diamond is still a
Right.
diamond. That has never changed. Just the tools
Right.
around it. Meaning we listen to music for hundreds of years, thousands of years. Humans have created music, and a few years I'll tell my daughter what a CD is. She'll think I'm crazy. She'll say, "What's a CD?" There's no such thing. And if I tell people what a mull gauge is in a few years, they'll
Whoa,
have
look
no
at
idea
that.
what I'm talking about. Yes, but the objective and the product that we're using to develop all these stones, the product itself, the tangible item has remained the same the whole
Same.
time. So
Right.
that to me is where that it's amazing. It's amazing to me to think that okay, we don't use the tools around the product, but we still use
Yes.
the product, which is mind-boggling.
Yes, absolutely. And so before we move ahead, Vince, can you please show us some of the diamonds that you have curated and kept aside for us?
Yeah, so I have actually a few items. I wanted to show actually here. I have two rings, which we'll do a
Mm-hmm.
little close up on. But this is an older antique style cushion, and I'm going to zoom it in a little. You'll see there's larger, softer facets. It was not updated today. And this is a modern cut, radiant cut. Radiant cut itself is there's so many small facets on it. This is a much newer cut than there was. I mean, you'll never see a stone that's 50 or 100 years old that was a radiant cut. You'll see emerald
Okay.
cuts. They have large step cut
Right.
facets, or actually
Right.
square emerald cuts. You'll see round and old mine, but the faceting list was so small. The tools they used were never able to hit these tiny little facets. So
Wow.
if you see here, I mean, the difference
Yes.
in the look and the scintillation is
Wow.
really, unique and different. You can see here,
Yes.
actually, this stone has I'm trying to get the focus, but it has an open culet.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
here you see this stone is completely multifaceted. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, and we'll post after some images of the things we spoke about, the differences, and people can get a better look. But yeah, those are those. And again, today, a modern brilliant cut diamond, or people like to hold it up their eye as they scale it to get the object. This is a 10-carat stone,
Wonderful.
and there's 57 facets on a modern round brilliant diamond, and 57 facets on an item that's approximately 15 millimeters. I mean, imagine
Wow.
hitting those exact intricate spots on every single facet to make them completely symmetrical. Forget about just the tools to use it to hit it, to be able to measure the symmetry, to be able to measure all those things. Technology has really helped us in many ways, as utilized as a tool hand in hand to be able to really create some amazing stones.
Moving forward, we know that four C's in a diamond are extremely important. So let's hear your thoughts about the importance of four C's in measuring the parameters of a diamond.
Yes, the four C's. Okay, so the four C's are a great learning tool and grading tool and categorization tool to creating some sort of form where we could all have a universal method of understanding, some generalization of what a diamond is and all the aspects. So the carat weight, we cannot determine. It's a number, it's a metric.
Mm-hmm.
We put the diamond on a scale.
Yes.
What this diamond is starts as a piece of rough, and a percentage we try to. The color is also pretty much is an intrinsic value of the stone. again, with colored diamonds, it's a little bit different, but generally there's amount of some sort of chemical compound, if the stone has any color in it, that was created in the earth. And the same type of thing with clarity. Clarity itself, I mean, my father always likes to tell me, any stone can be flawless if you just keep on cutting it away, right?
That's so true.
Right?
Wow.
So
Yes, absolutely, Mark.
it's a matter of
Yes.
that value. We want to have something
Yes.
tangible and beautiful that we can hold. So clarity also, these inclusions are all created by the earth itself in this finite product that comes out to the earth, and they're gifted to us really by the earth, and we cannot determine any of those things for the most part. The real aspect that I think stands apart from the 4 C's, to me it's really the 3 C's plus 1, because the 1 C, the cut, is really where we've been talking about, is really the aspect where human and Mother Nature meet to make some perfect
Wonderful.
harmony and balance. I
Yes.
mean, again, the tools and the cutting, I mean, I have actually behind me, which I took out, and they're probably about like 30 pounds each, but these are actually diamond wheels. I'm leaving them here. I could pick one up a little later maybe, and I'll do a video, but they're really heavy. They're about 35, 45 pounds. And if you see, there's a little bit difference. This is a brand new plate. It's compressed diamond dust on the wheel itself, on metal. And when we turn these on, they spin at 3,500 rounds a minute, right? They're spinning really fast. And it's almost as if a giant nail file or something will sand down the diamond. This is a used wheel, and you can see the difference it gets after you're compiling and rubbing the diamond on the wheel for a long time. They'll get worn down. There's actually still traces always in the wheel of diamond dust. Yeah,
Nice.
You can see them. And
Yes,
this will be usually a cutter's hands by the end of the day are completely black from the dust that's coming off the stones. But that today is really how we're impacting the cut of the stone. Like I said, the diamonds don't intrinsically sparkle, right? It's almost like we're playing a game and faceting the stone to have that ultimate optimal light return. The artisans that are doing it, they're the ones who make the diamond sparkle. The material can reflect. So to me, that the cut really stands apart from the other 3 C's. I like to call it 3 plus 1, kind of. You know, some people think things are better in groups of 3, but that's really where that human nature and that aspect, that art form, that transition of time really comes in. And what I see a major difference in the modern technology and limitations that technology has today is we're measuring a lot today and relying a lot on machines in certain aspects. But machines don't have emotions. Machines don't have feel. Machines cannot judge beauty, really, right? They judge it as symmetrical. I mean, we could have, I think we spoke about that. There's a difference between, you know, the Taj Mahal, which is beautiful, and it's very symmetrical. It's a beautiful building. And there's also a Van Gogh Starry Night, which is completely asymmetrical and is also considered beautiful. So they're finding that real sense of harmony, that real aspect where we can use the machines to enable our ability as humans to create something beautiful, to create something, you know, that speaks to you, creates emotion. And again, there's no really set specific parameter of what that is. We define that every single rough diamond when it comes out of the earth is completely unique in its own way. Actually, I have here a rough stone, and you can see the shape is, I mean, it's like a ball, it's like a rock. And this is after it's boiled and cleaned and all the dirt comes off of it. And if you can imagine this being a stone, we would find a seam in here in the olden days, and we'd have the tool there and boom, hit it, the stone would cleave and separate. Today we're using high-powered lasers to cleave more accurately and with more accuracy where we want to cut. So this stone actually, so imagine here, would look like this, right? And once we cleave it in half, we'll have 2 stones. And I need 2 hands for this, but then your 2 stones can result in 2 diamonds. So you'd have an Asher cut.
Wonderful.
And a heart shape. So that's kind of how people, you know, we're taking this, if it's something we can create 1 large stone out of, and we wouldn't need to cleave it or saw the stone, we would. But most of the time, there are inclusions in the stone which we have to work around. That's kind the simple process. I mean, a diamond is an octahedron, and it's
Yes.
basically two pyramids together in a three-dimensional act. And as they grow larger, especially, they take on even more unique forms as a piece of rough, and it creates more challenges and more issues when we're trying to shape finalized shapes of a stone. So I mean, that's kind of how we balance that human aspect, that cut feel. That's what a cutter, or as we say, I like to say, an artist is really,
Yes.
that's the job of a diamond tear.
So beautifully and so, simply explained. I'm sure that, all our audience must have gotten a great insight. Further, we've always heard about trust and transparency in the supply chain. So, which is, of course, very important. And of course, the origin of a diamond is also one of the primary concern to most of the consumers. So let's highlight about why is trust and transparency really important factors in the supply chain of a diamond.
Well, I mean, I don't think it's only with the supply chain of a diamond. I think that's with the supply chain of any product today.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mean, we want to make sure our diamonds are coming from, a respected source, not just respected, but somewhere that it's a consistent business setup. That being said, the transparency and trust, I mean, it goes from multiple levels, from consumer to a retail
Mm-hmm.
jeweler, from a retail jeweler to a diamond tear, from a diamond tear to the mining companies, and from the
Yes.
mining companies to the countries within where they're mining. So that level of trust, I mean, has to the whole industry, people will say the 47th Street is built on trust. A lot of,
Lovely.
we're making transitions of lots of valuable, whether it's a level of money or a rarity, on a handshake, on a trust, on a signature.
Yes.
So for the most part, I mean, again, from my perspective of being someone who works in the industry, I mean, that's the whole idea. I'm creating long-term trust and bonds and services for people who are looking for these items, whether it's a retailer, right, or a diamond house, or whoever's looking for these gems. I mean, what you're putting something, like we said, value and money and
Right.
trust in a product, which is not just, it's kind of timeless. I mean, I want to trust somebody where I'm going to purchase something that I intend to have for a long time and or pass down as an heirloom. I mean, we want to make sure that item is coming from a place we know that's doing good, and things like that. What I always felt is, I was speaking with somebody recently, and they were telling me, they said they have this pendant that they got they were an older lady. She said she has this pendant that she got for her sweet 16th birthday from her grandmother. So it was passed down, right, that her grandmother inherited. And that bond between people, whether it's
Yes.
on a consumer level or between on a business level, is something we understand. It's generational. I mean, how can we pass down something down that doesn't have that trust and that bond? I always felt, if I asked her back, I said, what else do you have from your sweet 16 birthday? So she was thinking, you get gifts, you get
Right.
all
Yes.
types of things,
Yes.
electronics. She said, this is the only thing she has. It's 30 years later. And she said, and looking back, I think about that a lot, is that person entrusted where they purchased it from, and they're passing it down. They know it really creates that part of being generational. And the reason why this
Yes.
industry itself is so generational and passed down is
Yes.
because of that trust. Who better to trust than your own children? Who better to trust than your family? And that's how we feel with the customers and the people we work with. Is a lot of them we're multi-generational doing business with, and we know them, and not just them, their families, and we know we can trust them, and whatever we're giving them, they know they can trust us back. And it's a continuous cycle
Continuous
back and
cycle.
forth.
Yes.
So that itself is what builds the trust. And yeah, I mean, that's kind of what we really focus on.
Lovely. And let's see some more of the diamonds that you have kept aside for us.
This is a new stone, which is really, I just think it's beautiful. And this is a pear shape, which
Mm-hmm.
actually it's like a modern pear shape in today's standards. But to me, I like pear because when we talk about the history of stones, if you look, these like cushiony round feels were originally,
Mm-hmm.
pear shape is almost like a round with a point. There were some of the original shapes besides for the cushion round. Here's a a heart shape, which is really nice.
Wonderful. Yes.
And what I actually, what I took out actually here, one or two things, and we spoke about. Here's an interesting, this book, I don't even want to tell you how many, besides for collecting diamonds, one of my hobbies is collecting a lot of books on diamonds. And this is actually a book. It's from the late 1700s.
Late
And
1700s. Wow.
yeah, and it's actually one of the first books that was ever, you can see it's really kind of old. It took me really time to
Yes.
hunt this down. It's kind of paper covered, but this book, it's called The Great Diamonds of the World. And there's basically no pictures in it because the illustration back then was very limited. And you can see there's a famous stone, the Orloff diamond. But this was one of the first books, and it was printed in London. And it was, of course, London. That's where a lot of the royalty was at the time when these books were printed. And they were a lot of the people collecting these types of stones at that time. But when books were kind of being produced, and I mean, this was one of the first early documentations of famous stones, which is interesting to see at the time when people realized that, wow, there are special gems out there. And we're talking about 200-300 years ago when that's already when people started to realize and document a lot of these stones. And we know of stones that predate that, and their documentation, I mean, obviously the stones in this book were documented, were predating to that. So it's interesting to see, when we talk about the transition of time, how much has changed. I mean, look at this book. I mean, there's no picture, there's nothing. Today, some of my most famous books growing up were this is a famous book. It's written by one of the guys like George Harlow, and he was a curator in the American Museum of Natural History. But I mean, look at the difference in the book. There's colors, there's pictures.
The presentation is different, yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's the diagrams, everything. And what I find interesting about most gems books is that most of them start with diamond.
Yes.
Being that it's the king of gem, right? It's the most brilliant, the strongest stone. And these transitional time things are really something that really speak a lot to me. And I hear this was actually, we were talking about modern cut and round diamonds. This was actually 2004 Gems and Gemology. Wow. This was when the cut grades were developed for round brilliant diamonds. So there used to just be like everything else on a round diamond was polish and symmetry, and we created a standard. There was actually an interesting rollout here of all the different facets and angles.
Lovely.
You can have round diamonds and how they'll kind of look a little bit different. So even though we say all round diamonds are similar, depending on how they're faceted and how they're angled, will create different projections of light. It's very interesting to see that transition over time. And yeah.
The question, which year is it from?
The old book or the old book? I don't have the exact date of this. I'll have to find it and they didn't print it then. I actually have a letter somewhere. I have to find. I could post a little bit about it later. You're not going to be able to find this book on Amazon, that's for sure. Some of these other books here, there's already newer versions of these. This Gems and Crystals one, also it's an older edition, and they have actually newer editions today. But we spoke about this, Renu, that I personally like original editions. I like to try to see the transition in a timely fashion. I feel today there's so much information out there. When people, everything's online. We Google, we search for stones, and there's a lot of information out there. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of right information. Unfortunately, there's a lot of false information. But even if you have the right information, puzzling it together in the right order helps you really understand the process and why diamonds are cut the way they are. So I find in a book, whether it's an early edition or even a second edition, books lay out the process in a procured order. So they really explain to you properly, there's an introduction, there's a body, there's a conclusion. When you were reading things online, whether it's on a website or a blog, it's a lot of taken out of context. I mean, we're here, we're there, we're all over the place. Right. It kind of gets us, we get bombarded with all this information. It's not necessarily something we can focus on and have a conclusion at the end. So I find a book, whether it's a paper book or you could even download books, however you want to read your book on your new technology you have today, on a Nook or Amazon Fire or an iPad, whatever it is. I mean, I feel like when it's laid out and presented properly, that's how people should educate themselves.
Love to know that how do diamonds do good in helping the community from where they are sourced? Because that's again another very important aspect and beauty of a natural diamond.
Yes. So it's funny to me that, I mean, to me, this question I get asked, I am involved with a lot of industry aspects of diamonds do good and things like that. To me, it's interesting question because I only see the good that diamonds do. All the communities, whether it's within the industry of 47th Street, within all the countries that we operate, I mean, the people in it are amazing.
Yes,
Diversity. I mean, we talk about diversity today. The diamond industry has been diverse for a long time. There's so many
yes,
aspects in so many parts of the world. India, Israel, Belgium, Africa, London, and
absolutely.
Europe. I mean, America. There's so many aspects. It's been diverse for a long time. Um, and all the communities I've gone to have grown exponentially from the industry itself. Again, it's a balance of having that trust and creating a system between government, mining companies,
Yes,
diamantaires, retailers, consumers to create that. That's the difficult part of making sure everything works together. But all the communities that we work in, I mean, the jobs that have been given, the schools that have been, the education that has been given,
yes,
there is so much good. I mean, that's just in the industry level. And then any person who's ever received a piece of diamond or jewelry will also tell you it does good because they get to wear it. So at that end, I mean, again, like we're saying, we're marking all these special occasions. So I think that would be good. But you know, it's again with every industry, there's unfortunately
yes,
some not as great parts, but again, those are dwindling, and when we're bringing that awareness with that, and a lot of these industries, organizations are working on that. The good is only getting gooder, you know, is getting better and more advanced in the ways that we are pushing for.
yes. And also the elephants have been taken care of in Africa.
Elephants and rhinos,
Yes,
animal life, preserving
yes,
and community. There's places,
absolutely.
yes, correct.
And now talking about people love to invest in diamonds, and especially be it for an engagement ring or be it for any other special occasion. Let's hear your valuable insight about some investment tips when making a investment in natural diamond.
Yeah. So investment is, I mean, there's two levels of investment. There's personal and, you know, feeling investment, and then there's
Mm-hmm.
financial investment, obviously.
Yes,
Um, I mean, when you're investing in something, whether it's, I mean, let's assume the most common purchase of a diamond is for an engagement ring, right? So, like we said before, it's an investment because you're wearing it every day, it's on your hand every day, or it's a pair of studs or your neck every day. I mean, you're getting the value
yes,
out of that wearing it. It's beautiful. So that investment of time, especially for sure, I mean, it's something I would venture to say outlasts pretty much almost any other product you're investing in, right? Besides for yourself personally, you know. So that's just an investment there. I mean, investment on time, there's no question. The financial aspect of the investment diamonds, again, understanding and trusting who you're buying from, where you're buying,
yes,
understanding where the stone's coming from, what the intrinsic value of it is. Sometimes it can go up, sometimes it can go down. On the
right.
charts, diamonds over time have gone up. They are rare. Definitely gem
Mm-hmm.
quality stones are rare.
Mm-hmm.
And the level of rareness changes throughout time, like any other product.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, you know, kind of good. There are more rare investment, real, like financial
Mm-hmm.
investment type stones, you know, real top gem quality stones, whether it means, you know, perfect stones like the Flawless is, or rare colored diamonds and things like that. Um, there's always an aspect of investment in a stone and in any product you buy. I think investing in a diamond pretty much, I mean, goes above and beyond. I mean, I think it's a good investment. I mean, my family's been invested in it for 70 plus years, and many other people have. So if you ask
Lovely.
me, I've invested my whole life. So
Yes, yes, absolutely
I'm pro
correct.
it. I just, like I said, you just have to understand what that means to invest in something, and that's with any purchase you buy, whether it means buying a car or buying a house,
Right.
which are major products, or even buying something small like an article of clothing or some other product
Yes,
that you have.
yes, absolutely. So basically, it just has to resonate with you, and you need to invest in something that really appeals to you from the heart.
Oh yeah, that for sure. That's the first thing I always tell everybody, and the main thing I always tell everybody when you're purchasing the stone. You know, people get very caught up in
Yeah,
in
absolutely.
in certain aspects of, color, clarity, or cut, or
Yes,
specifics, like we say, the four C's. I
right.
always tell people, I mean, yeah, the part of this thing is my father always used to hand me stones, right? So they say, Mark, here's this diamond, right?
Yes,
Here's a
yes,
diamond,
yes.
so I'm training from a little kid, Okay, I'd tell
Wow.
him, okay, it's 5 carats, it's D color, it's SI1 clarity, and
Yes,
they say no. I said, what do you mean no? They said, do you like it? I look at it again, with that aspect, and I'm like, oh, this one I like, this one I really like, this one I don't like as much. What can we do to improve it? That is the aspect. I mean, forget about, let's put all those other things aside of the parameters that we've limited ourselves with, and the four C's. At the end of the day, if it's a piece of jewelry, right, or something you're gonna
yes,
wear as an engagement ring, or something you're gonna wear as a pendant, earring, all these types of things, do you like it? Does the diamond speak to you? I mean, that's what we're talking about, art.
right.
I can sometimes look at a piece of art and not understand it, but I know if I like it or dislike it. I'm not an expert in paintings or sculptures or architecture. I can appreciate certain things, certain aspects of it, but I know what I like and what I dislike. The same thing like that is in a diamond, and even a longer term investment is, do you like it? I mean, that's the most important thing. Is it beautiful? That's what my father and my grandfather used to tell me. Is it beautiful? The most important thing above everything else is if you feel it's beautiful, because you're the one wearing it. You're the one who has it. What I find beautiful might not necessarily be what somebody else finds beautiful. And that is kind of, I think, what we're talking about, this transition of time, what beauty is, what I appreciate, what will I like. I mean, these are all minuscule details that no machine, no technology, no other people can categorize or create a mark on except for you yourself. And that's the most important thing. Buying something you like, investing in something you like.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. There's an interesting question, Mark. How to test the originality of diamond?
Meaning the origin of where the stone is coming from.
Now, there could be two aspects, whether he means where the diamonds come from or whether these diamonds are natural or
I
not.
mean,
Yes,
today they're natural diamonds, which we can detect. A lot of them can be detected instantly. Again, there are a lot of types of what do we call it? Whether it's lab grown diamonds, treated diamonds, color
right,
enhanced diamonds, CZ,
right.
moissanite. There are so many, even in the past 20, 30 years of I like to refer to them as imitation diamonds. And what I find that is, it's the most flattering thing. That just shows how valuable a diamond really is, and the intrinsic value is, everyone's trying to figure out a way to create this object, right? Obviously,
Mm-hmm.
there's value here and there's
Yes,
beauty here if there's so many imitation factors. So that's, first of all, I mean, you could detect, I mean, there are certain machines that detect certain types of treatments, things like that. That's one. The other thing, origin of types of stones. Colored diamonds, somebody mentioned something about colored diamonds, which we weren't focusing on specifically, but colored diamonds, because of their chemical compounds of whatever is
yes,
causing their color, are easier to determine within a range of certain regions they come from, right?
right.
Pink diamonds in certain areas. So, and also within characteristics of them, we can determine, are they from Australia, such as
Mm-hmm.
argyle mines, or are they
Mm-hmm.
from India, if there's certain types of chemical compounds in them, type 2A stones, if they're from Russia. Um, and all colors have their landscape where they're coming from. A white diamond or a colorless diamond is much more difficult to detect an origin. Today, though, and a lot of the industry has worked on tracing a stone from where it comes until all the aspects until the consumer. But again, when you're purchasing, there's only so much you can trace back, because it goes out of your hands, from the consumer to the retailer to the diamantaire to the mining company to the country. So even in certain countries, there's multiple places, or a continent, there's multiple places where stone can come from. You can determine today a lot of the origin. But again, because of certain, environmental issues, and because of certain governmental issues, it's hard to get exactly always on every single stone where it comes from. But that's the same thing when you're buying an estate or a piece that's a second hand, or as some people refer to them today as recycled diamonds,
Mm-hmm.
because you're keeping continuing. I mean, they trace back so many generations and decades. I mean, there's no way to really tell where they're coming from exactly. You can kind of gauge at certain times where people were mining and manufacturing from, but it's hard to tell.
It's
Listen, to
difficult.
me, they're all coming from Mother Earth. I mean, unless, as far as I know, no one sent a
They're all
rocket ship.
natural.
Yeah, no one
Yes.
sent up a rocket ship anywhere to outer space where we could find diamonds. maybe there'll be some billionaire that'll soon create that, and then we could say there's, I don't know,
Yes,
moon-grown diamonds or something like
yes,
that.
yes,
I don't know.
yes.
I'm waiting to see. I think that's what we're looking for over there.
Mark, you spoke about the legacy and the expertise passed down from your grandfather to your father and now to you. So we would love to hear about the values and principles of Julius Klein Diamonds.
Yeah, I mean, like we touched upon it before, but I mean, it's like I said, we're family owned and operated, and many of the customers and relationships and we've built over the years with retailers, with diamond houses, have
Right,
become friendships. They've become beyond just, you know, supply and demand and things like that. So, you know, that is how we learned. You know, we're trying to deliver product and service and always have continual relationships beyond just one transaction and one
right,
special occasion or engagement. I mean, that's with everybody. I mean, consumers today look for their, you know, somebody who's going to be able to supply them with whatever their product they're looking for. If we're talking about diamonds, you know, they have an engagement, they have a birthday, they have an anniversary, they
there's
have their
always an
children, they
occasion.
have
Mhm.
families. There's always something to celebrate, or just sometimes without a celebration. You just want to treat yourself, and that's okay too. So I mean, those relationships get built, and understanding your clients' needs, and you know, what they want, what they need, and what they're used to buying, what they like selling, and things like that. I mean, that's kind of what we focus on building that relationship way beyond just
Right, for sure.
providing a product. We're providing and beyond providing services, building a relationship, building a friendship that can continue, and hopefully onto, as I like to call my kids, the little diamonds here and the baby diamonds here, into the
How sweet.
fourth generation. So
Nice.
that's the hope and dreams. It's amazing to see these stones wherever they came from, and how they've moved from continent to continent to
Yes,
continent,
yes,
from
yes,
city to city. I mean, it really
absolutely.
it's amazing to see, and the style of jewelry that comes out of these pieces,
Yes,
and the usage. I mean, how that's another amazing thing. You know, from royalty to everyday people to, I mean, it's really across all the levels of society, and across all the countries, all the
yes,
continents. There
right.
is, it's another thing with this product. Like I said, it's transitioned through time, but it's also diversified and spread out everywhere. I mean, I don't think there's a place in the city in the world today that you can't get a diamond. There was a time where, you know, one or two cities in the world pretty much had them all, and they've spread their sparkles, we could say, and spread their light everywhere. You know, so it's interesting to see that.
And we are almost close to 1 hour's time. So before we call it a wrap, Mark, I would love to hear some piece of advice passed down to you from your generations, which has been very close to you, and probably you will pass them to your children.
Ooh, that's a tough one. we've tapped on a lot of them already. You know, whether it's the trust and the bond, the relationships, or buying something beautiful. Um, I would say that same key aspect is buy what you love, buy what you like. Make sure you're providing your friends, your family, your business relationships with something they like. I always tell somebody, I want you to have the stone and purchase it because I want you to like it, and I want you to be
Right.
able to get it to where it needs to go, onto the proper person's finger, and then you come back and buy another one. I mean, that's the ultimate. Building that relationship is where we can create some continuous, you know, back and forth. And I think that's kind of really the answer is buy something beautiful, buy something you like, buy something where you understand the value, and it should continue. It'll put down to the next generations. I think
Next
that's kind of
generation.
the key points.
Guys, in case we missed out on any questions, please feel free to either message me or to message Mark, and we will definitely answer all your questions. And definitely follow Mark's handle because he has some very interesting content that's always coming up, and they are really informative and very engaging.
Thank you.
So, well, Mark, on that note, thank you so much for giving us all your precious time and your insight. It was lovely.
Okay, thank you so much. Everybody travel safe, and I'll upload a lot of content from the things we spoke about. And looking forward to seeing you in person when we could
Oh, yes.
travel freely again, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Until then, yes,
Absolutely,
be
Mark.
safe. Thank you
All
so
right.
much.
Thank you. Bye, Mark. Thank you.
Bye.